Over the past couple days, I was super fortunate to have had the opportunity to support someone that's very, very dear to me, and then see a couple other females come in and support this female in my life. And it it made me reflect on so much about what has happened with me, um, with anxiety and depression over the years. The last couple days isn't my story to tell. I have a lot that I could say on this subject, though. I suffered from anxiety and depression from a young age, but I had no idea that that's what was going on. And it wasn't until my 20s that I realized that I was having stuff happening that was called anxiety and depression. And oddly enough, even though I had experienced this since early childhood in various different forms, when I was in high school, I had a friend who talked about having depression, and she gave me some specific details on like what it was that was going on for her. And I couldn't relate to those things, and I couldn't relate to the way that it was affecting her life. And I didn't tell her this, but I did not believe. I tried to support her in the way I could, but I did not believe that she was experiencing things that were causing the things to happen that were happening, like her missing many, many, many days of school. I just thought that she was not wanting to go to school, not wanting to do the work. And I couldn't understand, and therefore I did not sympathize with her. It's crazy to me now to be on the side of like totally understanding everything. And it gives me this view that I would not have if I didn't experience so many different sides to this, because now I can look at it and say, okay, I've been there where I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't understand the anxiety. I didn't understand the depression, and I didn't believe it. And so there are people that are in my life now that just they don't understand because they've never experienced it, or they haven't had somebody that was very close to them experience it to the level that it affected their life severely. And I can see from an eye of compassion now that like these people just don't understand, which I don't think I would have been able to see before. So I'm definitely grateful for me not being able to see that at some point. And I can't believe that, I was at a place where I didn't know. I didn't even know the label of anxiety. I mean, honestly, when I was in high school and before that, I don't even remember hearing the word anxiety. I don't even remember hearing the word, I was thinking about this earlier. I don't remember hearing the word stress until maybe middle school, maybe high school. And of course, like I knew what stress meant. I knew stress meant resistance. I just don't remember people talking about it and saying, like, I feel stressed. Like, that wasn't a word that my parents used when they were feeling stress. Like, they would never use that label that I remember. They would say, like, specifically something that happened that made them feel a certain way, or they would express anger and frustration. But I don't remember them saying, I'm so stressed, or this is making me feel stressed, or anything like that. And I don't remember anybody else saying that. I don't think that that was like a word that people used, or anxiety. And even though I felt anxiety since like early childhood, I didn't actually, I wasn't able to associate that word with the feelings that I was having until I was in my early 20s and I was working with a therapist, because my anxiety, shortly after I didn't understand my friend's anxiety to the degree that she had it in high school, my anxiety and depression got to the level that I was suddenly able to see why she wasn't able to go to school and why she was having things happening in the way that she was having happen. And so it was many, many years of having different understandings of it. And I think it's going to be constantly evolving and changing. And like, as our perceptions of everything always are, we're we're exposed to different things. We experience things in a different way. Somebody else in our life experiences something. We could see more angles of something and have a different conclusion to why something is happening. And I am constantly seeing new ways of understanding why we experience anxiety and depression and why it affects us in the way that we do. And I mean, there's so many different angles I could go to with this conversation. It's just something that's been coming up in my life a lot lately, and then like recently, like really, really seen somebody go through something that was extremely hard for them. I mean, very, very proud of them for beginning to work through it. Really made this come to light. And this really goes into, I've talked about brain retraining on here so many times because I did brain retraining and still do brain retraining, and it is a constant daily thing that I work through and with. And it has changed my life entirely, along with other things that I did to help myself heal in many other ways. Brain retraining was top of the list of things that has helped me. It is just essentially changing previous thought patterns and behaviors into a new way of reframing it, a new way of seeing it, and a new way of adapting to your life. So even things with, I realized I was experiencing PTSD in multiple ways, and a lot of people with chronic illness do experience PTSD in many, many different forms. One being even just going to a doctor's office, going into a procedure room, going into surgery, trying new medications, experiencing new symptoms, having relapses. There are so many things that after years, decades of experiencing chronic illness, they just like come into play, having severe things happening, very, very scary, traumatic things happening, life threatening things happening on a normal basis would cause PTSD in anybody. Um, and I experienced that in multiple different ways without even knowing that that was the label, with just knowing that I was physiologically having a response to something by just thinking about it, and it becoming to a point that I couldn't control what was going on anymore. I couldn't control the extreme panic that my system would go into with temperature changes, with sweating, with having my body feel like prickly and itchy everywhere suddenly, with my heart racing and my breathing changing, and tunnel vision. There were so many things that would physiologically happen to my body that had, I thought, no control over. And then with brain retraining, realizing that I can regain the control over those things that I essentially trained my body into experiencing because it was the way that I perceived it to be a survival mechanism, because my mind didn't have the tools to work with to know how to get myself out of that situation. I didn't have the experiences and the knowledge of what to do in those situations. And a lot of the times it was actually having to go through what it was that I went through, whether it was with other people, whether it was social anxiety, whether it was going into a doctor's office and having something done, whether it was trying a new medication. It was, I mean, so many different things, that driving, being a passenger in the car, even just, it was It was becoming aware of what exactly was happening, really, really focusing on my body, seeing the little subtle things that were happening, noticing as before the thing happened, what were my thoughts were, where my body was, allowing my body to go into this stuff, because we don't choose to have our body to go into this. I want to be very, very clear that I'm not saying that we are choosing to have our body go into this. Absolutely not. Nobody would choose to go through this ever. It's that we are literally in survival mode, and so we're trying to get through what we're getting through, and we're trying to focus on so many things to allow ourselves to just live, to get through what it is that we need to move to the next level. And in that, it becomes this panic, this cycle of stuff that our body and our mind just start to do, and we're not even aware of it a lot of the times until it starts to get to a level where we're like, whoa, something is not right here. I'm experiencing severe things. And then at that point, like, it kind of just tips over and it gets to a point where it's like uncontrollable. But as you start to catch these things, and as you start to realize this is happening, once you can do it for like one or two things, you can realize that it's controllable in every sense, and in absolutely anything. That, public speaking, to social anxiety, to a job interview, like absolutely everything that you're thinking before something that you do, it feels scary in any way that is. um it it can it can be worked through. Even having something like a loud noise startle you and having like the panic of it, learning to work through that loud noise or that bright light or whatever it is that startles your body and puts it into that panic mode, is possible to change that, to have it entirely changed. There was a time there where I was in the car, and if the car would jerk suddenly, I'd see brake lights in front of me and my body would profusely start sweating. And it got to a point where I was in the car one day, I saw the brake lights stop in front of me. I was a passenger in the car, and instantly, as I saw the brake lights, it wasn't even anything dangerous or scary happening. I just saw the brake lights. My body started sweating. My vision got extremely tunneled, and my heart just went like crazy. It was just a car braking in front of us. There was no reason for it to happen. It was just that seeing that lights just triggered that response for me to go into that physiological state that caused that. So what I started doing that really, really helped specifically with driving, and actually getting myself to be able to drive, was laying down and feeling safe in my space that I was laying down, knowing that I was safe, and actually visualizing in my head that car braking in front of me, visualizing the road, visualizing a feeling of the jerk of the car stopping. And then going into feeling my hands on the wheel and feeling myself sitting in the car and seeing the road and being able to take in everything. It really was me sitting there and training myself to be comfortable with what was going on. And I would have just lain in bed in my safe space. I would start to have this response just by visualizing it. So, what I did was day after day after day lay there and visualize this over and over and over again until my system started to calm down. And it wasn't very long of just laying there and having this sense of like, I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm like, this is not happening right now. I can visualize this and be okay. To getting in the car as a passenger and then getting in that mindset that I was in, laying in bed, being in the car and feeling that this is okay. I'm okay. And then from there, I was able to build like, okay, now I'm really feeling my hands on the steering wheel. I'm seeing this car brake in front of me. I'm safe. I'm okay. My body is calm, doing breath work, just breathing through it. And and getting excited, seeing like, okay, I'm driving on a road trip and I'm going across the country by myself and I'm doing all this stuff. And like, even doing anything by myself at certain points was terrifying because I had so many symptoms going on, so many different things going on, that anything by myself felt terrifying. So I got from not even being able to imagine sitting in a car without having that happen to actually being able to like visualize myself driving across like on a road trip, to be able to do that on my own, to fast forwarding to only about a year and a half later from when I like really started actually getting in the car to driving and doing this. And now I am able to actually go on road trips, drive at night, and be able to enjoy driving, to have a job where I drive like a lot, and feeling absolutely zero of the things that I felt before. I cannot recommend this like enough with this like brain retraining stuff. And that wasn't what I intended to be talking about on the video, but it is like what it comes down to with everything, is that we have the control, the capacity. We are wired to be able to train ourselves in and out of things. And like I said before, even if it isn't intentional, nobody would ever intentionally do this to themselves, to call themselves to experience the suffering of the severe anxiety and depression. But it just happens as a survival mechanism, that our nervous system thinks that it's protecting itself, that our brain thinks it's protecting itself by putting itself into these loops of um, false ways of wiring, false ways of thinking that it's going to be a security, false ways of protecting us. Um, but we can train ourselves out of those wires that have crossed to be able to cause our body to go into that state by simply thinking about something. And realizing how much like every single thing that we experience is a thought. Our thoughts create all of our emotions. Our thoughts trigger all the hormonal responses in our body and the endorphins in our body. Everything is controlled by a thought to release, to control that. So we see something, we bring in information, we hear something, we see something, we feel something, we smell something, we taste something. Anything can bring back any memory of something that like triggers us to have a response. And those things that come into our brain, we perceive a smell and instantly a memory comes back, and that memory can be a really happy one, and we immediately feel calmed and soothed by, let's say, grandma's cookies, like a smell that reminds us of that, and all of a sudden like we feel soothed and calm. Or it could be like a smell that happened that caused like something that happened during something very traumatic, and now suddenly you smell that and that brings back this memory, this thought of like a really scary time, and the body can go into that whole like sweating, panicky, everything that happened mode. So everything that our body experiences is caused by our mind going back to something that it can relate to. Even if it's a new experience, there can be something that it reminds us of, that it makes us think a really good experience, a positive experience, something that made us feel great, or a really sad experience. We can have neutral experiences too, where it is like a lot of stuff we experience is just neutral. It's just new information or something that really didn't affect us either way. But like we have the control to learn how to control that better. We have the ability to control that. And I am so thankful for going back to this beginning of this video here with like supporting each other, and so thankful for all the people in my life who have helped me to get past this, people who have reminded me of like what it was that I am focusing on and why I'm doing like years of brain retraining. Like literally I started brain retraining like close to 4 years ago now, I think. I'm trying to remember. I think it was 2017 when I started brain retraining, and I had support from my mom to help me. Like, she really was like, Kimberly, I think you need to be doing some of the brain retraining. Have you done any of this? Like, I really think this is going to help you. And like, I was reluctant to do some of it the way that it was done, but what I found, the way that the program, it was RS, dynamic neuro retraining system, I didn't like some of the way that it didn't work for me, some of the stuff, but I took stuff that out of that did work for me, and learning about other ways of brain retraining and able to adapt it to myself. So my mom really was like, I really think that this is going to help you, and I see that you're having some improvements, even like even early on. I was having some improvements from it. And so she pushed me to do that, and having the support of one of my best friends to just be there and just, okay, like I see that this is affecting you, and I want to help you, support you through this. Let's just get you in the car and help you drive. Let's just help you. I'm right here. You can pull over at any second. Like, let's just get you in the car. Let's go to this. I'll drive you to the spot where we're out in the middle of nowhere. There's not going to be any cars around. Just get you comfortable behind the wheel. Literally sitting behind the wheel freaked me out. I had to get used to just doing that. I remember my dad asked me to back the car out of the driveway like very shortly after I first started sitting in the car, just to like feel sitting behind the car, and I started panicking just to back the car out down the driveway slightly. That's all he wanted me to do, just back it like 10-15 feet down the driveway. And I had a physiological response to just sitting there, feeling the wheel between my hands, and just having to take in all the stuff around me and like process that enough to be able to back the car out. And I did it, but I experienced all that, and then I was able to say I did it. Like, I experienced all that, but I did it. And just keep growing from there, and just having the people around me just support me and let me know that like I can do it. And if it doesn't work the first time, it's okay. Like, you can get through it, and we're going to work with you, and you're going to move through this, and it's going to be okay. And like, so many people in my life that have helped me in so many, just even ways that they might not even know they were helping me, but like they were there for me. And they just encouraged me to try. And sometimes it felt scary, and sometimes it felt like I was being pushed, because I was being pushed, but sometimes it felt like a push that I wasn't ready for, and I would resist it. And then I would sit there thinking about it and being really frustrated with myself, and then I would move on and be like, all right, okay, I guess I gotta just do it. I just gotta, try. And I had to face things that I wasn't always ready, thought that I wasn't always ready to face. And then I would start doing it, and just practice doing it over and over and over again. And they were just little subtle things sometimes, even just like going out in public and being around other people, which of course now is an entirely different layer to all that stuff going on, but just the social anxiety aspect of that, and exposing myself to light and sound, which was extremely painful for me. Because I got my brain into these loops that like sound and light were scary and painful because of Lyme symptoms and toxic mold symptoms. And even as my body was healing out of that, I had to like train myself to be like, okay, this is safe, like I can do this, because everything triggered me. Everything did. I had to entirely relearn how to live life. Like, it felt ridiculous at times, like how much effort I was putting into just things that were just normal everyday things, like a refrigerator making noise and trying to listen to a conversation, and learning to tune that out. Like, I had to literally retrain myself to filter stimulation in a way that it used to be able to do, because I had trained myself to say that everything I was experiencing was scary and painful. Um, So I learned how extremely powerful the mind is and how much control we can have over the body and our different systems. And that was extreme. So I'm so thankful for everybody in my life who has helped me. And to know that some of you are watching this, and I just want you to know how much I appreciate everything that you did, because I know that it was not easy at times. That is for sure. That I was resisting so much because I didn't think I could do it. And it was the support of the people in my life that really helped me work through that, and then taking the responsibility to actually do it. So anxiety and depression is extreme, and can be entirely life altering, 100%. And just know that you have the strength to get through what it is that you need to get through. You just need to learn the tools to actually be able to have it. And once you have those tools, you have the strength within you. You just got to find it, and you can find it. It's there. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching this video. If you made it here to the end, there's a reason why you're watching this, even if it wasn't for you and if it was for somebody else in your life. You have more power than you think over the support that you can give these people. All right. Well, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.